In the summer of 1994, there was a lunch. Me, John Lasseter, Pete Docter, the late Joe Ranft, all sat down. Toy Story was almost complete. And we thought, well, geez, if we're going to make another movie, we got to get started now. So at that lunch, we knocked around a bunch of ideas that eventually became A Bug's Life, Monsters Incorporated, Finding Nemo. And the last one we talked about that day was the story of a robot named Wall-E.
Wall-E.
Welcome back to Crawford-Clark Close-Up. We're in the middle of our journey to infinity and beyond through the treasure trove that is the Pixar back catalogue, reviewing each film and the Pixar short films in the run-up to this summer's highly anticipated The Incredibles 2, the 20th Pixar feature film to date, with a repertoire that's boasted underwater life, a gourmet rat, toys coming to life, and superhero humans, amongst others. Pixar had previously promised us infinity and beyond, but it wasn't until 2008 that they actually delivered, giving audiences an intergalactic adventure that was out of this world, with the last surviving Wall-E. Let's go back in time to the earliest days of Pixar's output. Director Andrew Stanton, fresh from his success on 2003's Finding Nemo, had the idea of an inquisitive little robot cleaning up Earth in the back of his mind for the best part of 10 years. Wall-E was first touted back in the mid-90s when the studio was starting out making features like Toy Story and experimenting with the formula on A Bug's Life and Monsters, Inc. As director Andrew Stanton has explained in interviews, during the editing process on Finding Nemo back in 2002, he was daydreaming and returned to his original conception for Wall-E. Back in the early days of the studio, the idea of a film with a first half containing absolutely no dialogue and a robot as a protagonist seemed laughable. But after 8 films that have all, to their credit, made enormous money for the studio, the time was right in the late 2000s for a gamble on this little Hello Dolly-loving robot and his quest for love and companionship. The teaser trailers released in 2007, around the time of Ratatouille's debut, spoke volumes. This was going to be a spectacle unlike anything Pixar had given us thus far. We were going to be transported with this character. The little vignettes of inquisitive Wall-E at work collecting his little treasures and getting confused by the function of a bra and a light bulb were showcased in the trailers and immediately hooked audiences. And then, of course, there was Wall-E integrating himself alongside Luxo Jr. in the world-famous Pixar logo itself. The marketing for Wall-E boasted an adventure that was out of this world, and Pixar delivered. Within the first few moments, we have the juxtaposition of the joyous "Put on your Sunday clothes," sung in the carefree manner of Michael Crawford from the musical Hello Dolly, with the barren landscape of a desolate Earth of the not-too-distant future. There is no human life here, only a robot, a waste allocation load lifter, Earth class, or Wall-E, as we affectionately come to learn, cleaning up Earth for us to make it habitable once again. From this very opening, the landscape for the animation is vast, and a decade on from its release this year, the film still feels as fresh and groundbreaking as it did back then. You've got to admire the determination of director Andrew Stanton. After his successful pairing with composer Thomas Newman on the classic Finding Nemo, Stanton took Newman aside and pitched the idea of Wall-E to him, stressing that the majority of the film's dialogue will be computer-generated sound effects, and this would be the ultimate love story between 2 robots who find each other. Newman could easily have walked away, but thankfully he had faith in the idea and began working on the score to the film, which is one of Pixar's most diverse sounding. From the beautiful first date, with Wall-E trying to gain the affections of Eve, to tracks like Foreign Contaminant and Divine Dancing as Wall-E ventures into the final frontier. It's a glorious mix that perfectly accompanies the film. Plus, any film that has Louis Armstrong on the soundtrack is already doing something right. Something that's fascinating about Wall-E is that this film also marks the first time for Pixar that they've used physical human actors in one of their films. Fred Willard being the most significant, as BNL chairman Shelby Forthright, who describes the orbiting spaceship, the Axiom, as the final frontier. For Wall-E's sounds, director Stanton turned to Star Wars sound design extraordinaire Ben Burt, who gives Wall-E such a perfect voice. and Wally's mannerisms, especially in his trying to court Eve, are straight out of the best outings of Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. With nothing but sound effects and score for the first act of the film, this is undoubtedly Pixar's most daring move up to this point. Within the first 10 minutes, we know all the fundamentals of this character. He doesn't just go idly about his day cleaning, but he finds little treasures and takes them back to his home. He's clever enough to identify that a very circular-ended fork could be either a fork or a spoon, so, undecided, he intelligently decides to place it in the middle of both piles. He sees a scene from Hello Dolly on his little screen in his home and puts his hands together in a beautifully symbolic scene that shows us he's just a little bit lonely. Charlie Chaplin must be looking down with a wide smile. It's only when Wally spots a plant in some earth inside a container as he approaches the end of his workday, which he luckily collects up and returns home with, that this becomes the catalyst for Earth's repopulation. Unbeknownst to Wally, he is Earth's saviour. Inquisitive Wally spots a circular red light on the ground and follows it, only to find that an Earth vegetation probe, or Eve robot, is about to land and his adventure is about to begin. The montage of Wally trying to woo Eve over the delicious tones of Louis Armstrong's cover of La Vie en Rose is really some of Pixar's very best work, and is the first of a number of standout scenes in the film. The scene itself is a favourite of the film's director, who has remarked that this is the point I really thought we nailed it, the story of this boxy tractor that falls in love with a Porsche. Wally and Eve finally introducing themselves to each other is another beautiful moment, especially Wally pronouncing his own name and then trying to pronounce Eve, unsuccessfully. After the first 35 minutes, this is where some audiences and critics are quick to write off the remainder of the film. Yes, the scenes on the Axiom are frenetic and incredibly fast-paced compared to the first act of the film, but that's the great contrast. We need to see where Wally's journey is going to take him, and when the spaceship comes back down to Earth to take Eve back to the Axiom, Wally follows his instinct and goes after his love, and we're quite content to make that journey alongside him. We're quick to learn that the year is 2815 AD, and humans aboard the Axiom have let themselves go in the luxury. Their maiden voyage has lasted a few hundred years more than they intended, but that could all be about to change. There's a great cameo in the film from Sigourney Weaver as the voice of the Axiom, and it's Weaver's first foray into the sci-fi genre for a while. On the subject of sci-fi, there are also great nods to Kubrick's 1968 masterpiece 2001, A Space Odyssey. The Axiom's computer Otto is the film's villain, trying to do everything it can to stop the plant from reaching the nucleus of the ship to take the Axiom back to Earth. Basically, Otto is the 21st century HAL from 2001. In a film with beautiful cinematography and so many great moments to choose from, the Crawford-Clark close-up standout scene is Eve and Wally dancing in space. The animation is breathtaking, and Thomas Newman's score is outstanding. Wall-E is a marvel. At 90 minutes, it's the shortest Pixar feature since Finding Nemo in 2003, which goes to show that director Andrew Stanton knows how to make a succinct adventure. Wall-E himself is a brilliantly inventive character. As we know, the key to a successful protagonist, whether human or inanimate, is to make them feel believable and for the audience to sympathise with them. By that criteria, Pixar succeed on every level here and surpass expectations. The elegance of Eve juxtaposed by the naivety and clumsiness of Wall-E is a perfect balance, and the two make one of the screen's most convincing couples in recent memory. Make no mistake, Wall-E is an entirely new direction for animation. Marketed primarily at younger audiences, this film has genuine heart and is, in places, uncommonly dark. Wall-E going about his daily work and the camera panning over other Wall-E robots that haven't made it is not easy viewing for children. Neither is a film that spends a good half an hour entrusting that younger viewers will appreciate watching a robot that doesn't talk, and yet Pixar succeed because they put faith in their audience. Not everything has to be plainly spelled out. Audiences can work out the emotions themselves. Wall-E absolutely deserves... What are your thoughts on Pixar's 9th feature? Were you as enraptured by the 4th Pixar film to win the Best Animation Oscar as we are? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like this review, please click subscribe. You can get involved with Crawford-Clark Close-Up on social media. Come and find us on Facebook and Twitter, or you can drop us an email to crawfordclarkcloseup@gmail.com. So, where exactly do Pixar go from here? Better have the tissues to hand, as for their 10th feature film, we're going on another adventure. This time to Paradise Falls with Carl and Russell in Up. For now, thanks for watching, and that's a wrap.